Sadiq Khan is facing backlash after apparently backing away from his promise to investigate a controversial series of adverts displayed across the Transport for London network. Just last week, GBNews' digital reporter, James Saunders, uncovered adverts showing a controversial Muslim preacher and a UFC fighter with links to Putin appearing on London's public transport. This discovery quickly drew criticism from Tory London Assembly member Susan Hall, who questioned why Sadiq Khan had been quick to ban junk food ads, yet had taken no action on the Wahed billboards. Susan Hall raised the issue during Mayor's question time, prompting Khan to respond. He said, "I'll have a look at it as soon as Mayor's question time is finished to see what's gone on there." Yet, despite his assurances, GB News reports that the Mayor has no involvement in deciding which adverts run on the TfL network, and by Wednesday, no action had been taken on the ads in question. Speaking with GB News, Susan Hall accused Khan of selectively intervening in TfL advertising when it suits him. She said, "I am at a loss for words. When I asked the Mayor about this advert, he said he would look into it. And now we discover that he apparently has no power over it. Why would he suggest he would look into it if he already knew this? It's beggars belief." She went on to recall that Khan has intervened in the past, most notably in banning body-shaming ads like bikini models on the tube, which left Londoners wanting answers as to why the Mayor is able to intervene on some ads and not others. Following a 2016 controversy over so-called body-shaming ads, Sadiq Khan called for a ban, declaring he wanted to send a clear message to the advertising industry. The ads sparking the current controversy for the Islamic finance firm Wahed feature a preacher named Musa Menk, known as Mufti Menk, and former UFC fighter Khabib Nurmagomedov, linked to Putin ally Ramzan Kadyrov, and are appearing on billboards, trains and buses across London. Menk was banned from entering Singapore in 2017 for segregationalist and divisive teachings and faced a 2-year ban in Denmark the following year. He was previously barred from 6 UK universities for comments he later retracted that labelled homosexuality as filthy and compared gay individuals to animals. Meanwhile, Khabib has a close relationship with Kadyrov, who has gifted him luxury cars and an honorary citizenship. Despite the controversy, TfL did tell GB News that the ads had been reviewed and were found to comply with its advertising policy, remaining visible across the city. A spokeswoman for the Mayor commented that Khan is clear that there is no place for hate in London, and he strongly condemns any language which divides London's diverse communities. She also confirmed that TfL's ad policy reflects legal requirements. Both Susan Hall and Howard Cox, who both ran in the 2024 London mayoral elections, have been on GB News to discuss and react to this story.
Now Transport for London is under fire for a series of adverts featuring a controversial Islamic preacher who's been banned from entering Singapore.
Yes, so the advertisements for the finance firm Wahed also feature a controversial UFC fighter, Khabib, who has links to Russian warlords closely allied with Putin. OK.
Well, questions are being asked about TfL's vetting process, as earlier this year, adverts showing the comedian Ed Gamble eating a hot dog were removed for promoting obesity.
OK, well, a TfL spokesman said this advert was reviewed and found to comply with our advertising policy. GB News has also approached the financial firm Wahed for comment.
When asked about this issue this morning by the London Assembly member Susan Hall, Mayor Sadiq Khan didn't really have much to say. Take a listen.
Chair, I'm not aware of the advert. I'll look at it as soon as Mayor's question time is finished to see what's going on there. I'm more than happy to look into that and get back to the member.
Please do, because I think things like that just make the whole thing look totally ridiculous.
OK, well, we're delighted to say we have Susan Hall with us now. Susan, thank you very much indeed. Tell us a little bit about this advert then. What's the problem that you've identified?
Well, I think the whole situation is ridiculous. All sorts of foods are banned on TfL adverts, which I didn't agree with in the first place. As an example, you're not allowed to put anything that's got fat or sugar or all sorts of things on it. So you go on the underground and you see very little food whatsoever. You come up on, for instance, Westminster, and there's a wonderful stall full of cupcakes that you can buy. So it's just a nonsense, quite frankly. But it was very irritating to find out that they won't allow a hot dog, as it were, to be pictured on there. And yet this chap, Mufti Menk, I think is his name. He's known to have denounced homosexuality as filthy and has said that gays were, and I'm quoting, of course, worse than animals. So TfL have been questioned and said that this passes through quite happily through its procedures. How can that be right? And yet putting God forbid you should put a hot dog on an advert. I mean, it's all damn ridiculous, Emily. Ridiculous.
No, it does seem that there's the hypocrisy charge there. I mean, or perhaps it isn't hypocrisy at all. I remember when these beach body ready adverts were banned because they showed women in bikinis. I mean, maybe that's we all just need to sort of shroud ourselves over and not. I mean, maybe that's consistent. But I suppose the argument here, there could be an argument made that this is a financial services company. It's allowed to advertise its financial services. It's allowed to have whoever it wants on its advert to promote that. I mean, surely it's a conservative position to say yes, private business advert, fine.
I think it's more along the lines that people like me, my group, the Conservatives, have fought this nonsense over what is allowed and what's not allowed. We don't agree with banning all sorts of things. So if you're going to ban a hot dog but allow somebody that regards gays as worse than animals, then I'm sorry, you've got something very wrong with your policy, I would say. Yeah,
he was reportedly also banned for 2 years from Denmark, which is very interesting. As to why we'd have an advert allowed in Britain for a man who's been banned from both Singapore and Denmark, it is rather curious. I don't think it's wrong to raise this to Sadiq Khan. Do you have faith that he'll look into it? No, of course not. I mean, somebody else might pick up on it. He just fobs you off with all sorts of things. I asked him as an example, I know it's a separate subject, but I know you've been interested in it. I asked him also whether he tried to persuade the police to give outriders to Taylor Swift, and he sort of avoided that. He inferred that he actually hadn't, but he never gives straight answers. It's like banging your head against a brick wall. But going back to this advertising, it's so damn ridiculous that somebody Ed Gamble had to have a hot dog photoshopped out and I believe a cucumber put in its place. Ooh. Oh, Susan, are you okay? It was just the camera, not you.
No, I'm okay. My computer collapsed. I do apologise. No, that's how cross I am, quite frankly.
Well.
It's all ridiculous.
No, it really does. It really does highlight it when you contrast the sort of controversial preacher on an advert. That's okay, but not a controversial hot dog. That's
not
beyond the pale.
Dog, never a hot dog. And God forbid you should put a wedding cake or something like that. I think that's been banned as well in the past. I mean, this just shows the stupidity of TfL. Quite frankly, I'd probably put everything on there. But if they're going to be picky, don't put up these people that are say the sort of things that this chap has said.
Yes, God forbid you have a female bodybuilder in a bikini. Oh, terrible. Thank you very much.
Don't do that.
Thank you very much indeed, Susan Hall.
Transport for London is under fire once again for a series of billboards featuring a controversial Islamic preacher who's been banned from entering Singapore because of his segregationist and divisive teachings. And yet adverts for the finance firm Waheed also feature a controversial UFC fighter, Khabib, who has links to Russian warlords closely allied with Vladimir Putin. London Mayor Sadiq Khan didn't have much to say about it this morning.
Chairman, already the advert. I'll look at it as soon as Mayor's question time is finished to see what's going on there. I'm more than happy to look into that and get back to the member.
Please do, because I think things like that just make the whole thing look totally ridiculous.
Well, questions are now being asked about TfL's vetting process, as earlier this year adverts showing comedian Ed Gamble eating a hot dog were removed for promoting obesity. Another day in the madhouse that is London. So how are these adverts allowed to be displayed across the capital? Join me now is the former London mayoral candidate, Howard Cox. Howard, welcome to the show. So it's perfectly OK. You're not allowed to show an advert, for example, of a woman in a bikini if they're beach body ready. You're not allowed to show an advert of a burger or even a block of cheese. But it's OK to show an advert of an Islamist preacher. Make some sense of this, please.
Well, I can't make any sense, but it just goes. We can go back to what Lee Anderson were when he was actually the whip was removed for him because he actually complained. He actually simply said that the mayor and TfL are being controlled by other indigenous cultures, and I'm afraid it's come home to roost. He was telling the truth. Susan Hall quite rightly is complaining about it, but she needs to go stronger, because I think the way they actually measure the suitability of adverts has gone wrong. I've got no problem with them promoting their bank or whatever they do, provided they don't discriminate. In fact, other things like, as you say, like Ed Gamble's poster and his hot dog. The simple fact of it is he is actually prioritising the Islamic or Muslim or whatever you want to call it. I get confused myself with how to describe the culture, but simply that they getting priority over basically British culture.
So, Howard, to put a little bit of balance on this, here are the adverts. You can see that's the preacher on the left, that's the wrestler on the right, plastered across buses and on the underground. To give Sadiq Khan a little bit of credit here, has he got the time to check every advert that goes out on the transport network of TfL? Could this be a simple admin error, and now that he's realised it, they'll be taken down?
It's not an admin error. It's absolutely no way. I mean, he's got 1,000 people all earning six-figure, £100,000 or more. He's got loads of staff, and he sets the criteria. He agrees the criteria, and this one sailed through with no problems whatsoever. And it's and my inbox, being I didn't become London Mayor, but had I become London Mayor, this one wouldn't have been accepted, because it doesn't meet the criteria of British culture. It's as simple as that.
OK, thank you very much. And it's worth pointing out, Howard Cox, that this firm specialises in Sharia-compliant investments, whatever they are, and they would not invest in alcohol or gambling or impure food like pork or tobacco or adult entertainment, all off limits. That's modern London. Thank you very much, Howard Cox.
GB News has reached out to the Mayor of London for additional comment. Daniel Smith, GB News.